So, we are on this topic of eddy current testing right now, and in last few lectures we have seen different aspects of this particular technique, including the basic principle. And in the last class I discussed about different types of eddy current probes. As you could see here, these are all listed here, and we have discussed this already in the last lecture. Then we also talked about what kind of circuit is used to sense the change through which you can get a signal from the defect, and this balance bridge circuit or the balance bridge method is one of them through which you can sense the change in the magnetic field, and that is how a signal from the defect is generated and shown on the display screen of the system. Okay. And we have also talked about the eddy current systems, the different parts of it. So, today we will continue and see the other aspects of this particular technique. I have told you before, the induced currents or the eddy current is primarily limited on the surface, and it can go up to certain depth, which depends on first of all the frequency which is used, and it also depends on the property of the material on which the current is induced. Okay. So, let us see what are those parameters which control the depth of penetration of eddy currents in a given material. So, both alternating current and the induced eddy currents as I said travel along the surface and they penetrate very little into the depth. To certain extent they can penetrate, and that would depend on, as I told, on the frequency which is used and the electrical and the magnetic properties of the material. Okay. So, if you plot the current as a function of depth from the surface, so, let us plot this in terms of the relative intensity. Which is I by I naught, wherein I naught is the current right at the surface and I is current at any given depth. Okay. So, that means this, if it is 1, if I by I naught is 1, that is right at the surface, and as you increase the depth from the surface, the eddy currents will decrease like this. Okay. And there is a depth around %, is somewhere here. So, this depth where the eddy currents reduce by a factor of 1 by E, which comes to around 37% or 36.8% to be exact. That particular depth is known as standard depth of penetration. Which is denoted by delta. Okay. So, this is the depth delta at which the eddy currents will reduce by a factor of 1 by E, or it will reduce by 36.8%. Okay. So, this depth is sometime also normalized by the standard depth, and it is plotted with respect to the current at the surface. Okay. Right. So, now if you look at the parameters which control the standard depth of penetration, this depends on, as I said, on the frequency of the current which is used. Let us say the frequency we call it by nu, and the magnetic and electrical properties of the material on which the current is induced. Okay. So, nu is frequency, sigma is conductivity, mu r is the relative permeability of the material, and mu naught is the permeability of vacuum. Okay. This mu r and sigma, these two are the material property, and the other parameter which control the depth of penetration is the frequency. Okay. So, if the frequency is high, as you could see from this relationship, the depth of penetration will be lower and vice versa. Similarly, as the conductivity increases, the depth of penetration would reduce. The depth of penetration is inversely proportional to the square root of both the frequency and the conductivity of the material, and it is also inversely proportional to the magnetic property, which is the relative permeability mu r. Okay. Now, when do you say a depth or a material thickness is thick enough with respect to eddy current, in the sense that what thickness will you say that beyond that eddy currents will not be able to penetrate. So, the effect of that sample thickness can be again demonstrated with the help of this impedance plane for a given material. Let us say you have brass as the sample, and then if you keep increasing the thickness of the sample by, let us say, adding a number of sheets of brass one over the other, then at some point as you increase the thickness like this. So, let us say you start increasing the thickness in this manner by adding, let us say this is the first sheet, and then you are adding the second sheet, third sheet, and so on. So, as you keep on adding the sheets of brass, the thickness will increase, and this is how the thickness curve will be with respect to the eddy current. And at some point you will see that the variation in the impedance of the coil will stop, and it will kind of become independent of the thickness. Okay. So, that point at which the impedance Z does not vary anymore with respect to the thickness, that particular thickness corresponds to a thickness which is greater than 3 delta, where delta is the standard depth of penetration as we have seen before. So, at this point, at this particular depth or thickness, you can call the sample as a thick sample, beyond which the eddy currents will not be able to penetrate, because at such thickness where it is more than 3 delta, then the magnetic field of the eddy current will be completely trapped by the thickness of the material. Okay. So, that is why this thickness with respect to eddy current is called a thick sample, and beyond which you will not be able to penetrate the eddy currents. Okay. So, this is the effect of sample thickness. Now, the other important parameter in eddy current testing is the frequency. And the range of frequency, I would have said this before also, is from few kilohertz to 5 megahertz. That is the generally used frequency range for eddy current testing. And as you could see from the previous equation that we just now derived with respect to the depth of penetration. So, if you have low frequency, then penetration is high. But the sensitivity to detection of flaws is less. And high frequency, it is just opposite. It is just the opposite, just the reverse scenario. That means, the depth of penetration would be low, but the sensitivity would be high. Okay. So, this is the effect of frequency in terms of the penetration depth and the detection of flaws. Now, the question is, how do you decide the, or how do you select the test frequency when you are doing the testing. Okay. So, that would depend on what kind of part you have and what exactly you want to do. For example, if you have a cylindrical sample, so in this case a characteristic frequency can be defined first. Let us call that as nu c, which would depend on the dimensions of the part and its magnetic and electrical properties in this fashion. So, r is the diameter of the cylinder and the properties which control the eddy current, that is this mu r and the conductivity sigma. Okay. So, this is how first you can define a characteristics frequency which would depend on the size and the properties of the material, and then based on this characteristics frequency, these frequency charts are prepared. The characteristics frequency for a given part of a given geometry. So, from these frequency charts, once you know the characteristics frequency nu c, the test frequency nu can be decided. And now, let us see what exactly is done when you do the test. So, I will first show you few images, then I will show a demo video also, like what I have shown you before also for the other two techniques. So, that will give you an idea as to how exactly the whole process is done, as you could see on the screen. And as I would have said before also, this is a very compact and portable system which come inside this small box, which contains everything whatever is needed for doing the test. So, this box has the necessary electronics, the connectors, the battery for powering it, everything inside this box, and then through the connectors that you have, you can connect a probe. You can see a probe over there lying in front of the system, in front of that box. So, you take this probe and then you have to bring it near to the sample surface. You can touch it on the sample surface and then you could see the eddy current signal coming out. And you could also see here there are so many press buttons, and there is a knob which will control different parameters corresponding to each of these buttons. Okay. So, with the help of these buttons and this knob, you can vary several parameters during the test. For example, you can select a particular frequency, you can change the phase angle of the eddy current and so on. So, these switch buttons are very easy to use, and as a system this is very easy to operate as such. Okay. Yeah, so that is how the system looks, and if you take a close look, this is the display and you can see a curve over here, which is the lift off curve that we have talked about. Okay. So, when you touch the probe on the sample surface, this is what you see. So, this is the beginning point, which is the point in air, or that is also called as null point, as I am going to show you in the video also. Okay. So, when you touch the probe on the sample surface, then you will see this is coming down from this point and going like this, giving you this lift off curve. And when you have any defect on the surface, when the probe encounters any flaw on the surface, then you would see a defect signal over this lift off curve, which I am going to show you in the next video. Okay. So, this is how the whole system looks, and now we are going to see the video and then see how exactly the defect signal appears on the display. And these are some of the probes that we have in our lab. So, you could see these are primarily those surface probes or flat probes, because the end if you see is flat, this and even this also, although this looks like a rod, but at this end which will actually be on the sample surface, this end is flat. So, these are flat type or surface probes which are primarily used on flat surfaces. And then with the help of this, as I will show you now with the help of a video, you would be able to get the signal from cracks or other flaws which are there on the surface. So, let us see this video now. So, this is the system, and in order to show a crack signal, I am using this reference block which is being shown right now. Okay. So, this is made of aluminum, a small plate of aluminum, and over this as you could see there are 3 lines which are precisely cut on the surface, and these 3 lines would serve as artificial flaws like cracks, and with the help of those we will see how the crack signal is obtained in eddy current testing. Okay. So, this is what right now I am showing, that on the surface there are 3 precisely cut lines of different width. So, this will serve as 3 different flaws having different sizes. Okay. So, you could see that these two lines are prominent, and there is one more on the right hand side which is very thin. So, that will be the smallest defect that we have in this case. Okay. So, on the right here it is very thin. So, that is the first one that we are going to use and show you how the defect signal is obtained. Okay. So, what is done in the beginning, the first switch that I am pressing, that is called null. So, null means you first balance the probe in the air. So, if you remember, we come down from air and then we decrease the lift off distance, and as you go very close to the sample surface, then you see the lift off curve when the eddy currents are induced. Okay. So, this point as you see here is the beginning or that point in air. Okay. And as we move this probe onto the surface, you would see the lift off curve originating from this point and going down like this. Yeah. So, that is how the lift off is coming. The moment I bring it to the surface of the sample, the moment I touch the probe on the surface of the sample, you could see the lift off curve. So, let us have a look again. Okay, and once I move it over the first crack, which is the smallest one, you can see a small signal which is coming, and then the second crack you can see a bigger crack signal coming, because that is a bigger defect. And then I am going to the third one now, and you can see a further bigger crack signal which is coming out over the lift off curve. Okay. So, this is how the moment the probe moves over a defect, you could immediately see a spike above the lift off curve like this, okay, where the arrow is. So, this is the crack signal. I am showing it again now. This is the first one, the small crack. So, you can see a small signal. Then the second one, you will see a bigger one, this one. So, this is the medium size crack that we have in the middle, and then finally, the third one, which is the bigger crack, and you can see a bigger signal corresponding to that. Okay. Yeah, so this is how the whole thing works. It is a very simple technique, as you would have seen. All you need is that box, which will have everything, as I said, including the powerhouse, the electronics, and so on, and then you can connect your probe onto that instrument, and you can take it and simply move it over the surface. And the moment you encounter, the moment the probe encounters a defect, you can see a signal coming out like a spike over the lift off curve. If you do not have any defect or any crack, as you move on the surface, the signal will simply move over the lift off curve back and forth as you go up and down. Okay. You will not see anything extra apart from the lift off curve. So, you see a signal in this case, unlike the previous cases in magnetic particle testing and dye penetrant testing, where you saw the direct indications of the flaw, but in this case the indications are indirect, and that is why it is necessary to first calibrate the instrument and then do the test. Okay. So, whenever the indications are indirect, the first thing that you need to do before you do the NDT, you need to calibrate the instrument. Okay. So, in this case also we need to do that. If you do not calibrate, then the results that you get may be erroneous. Okay. So, in order to do that, in order to calibrate the instrument, you need some reference blocks, some standard blocks which will have precisely cut out artificial flaws, and one of them I have used, as I said in this video. So, those 3 lines are precisely cut on the surface of this aluminum block. So, this is a standard reference block which is known as a calibration standard, which is used as a crack standard to see and to calibrate the instrument when you are trying to inspect surface flaws and you expect defects like cracks, and that is why this kind of lines are made on the surface which will represent cracks. Okay. And there could be other types of reference standards also, like this. So, this one you have seen in the video, which have this precisely cut lines which represents crack, which is here also. This is a conductivity reference standard, because you have seen conductivity is one of the important parameters which controls the depth of penetration of the eddy currents. So, in certain cases you need to calibrate the instrument with regard to the conductivity as well. So, whenever you use a reference standard like this, okay, you need to make sure that it should be manufactured from the same material as the sample. Okay. So, if you have a sample, for example, which is made of aluminum alloy, then you should also select a reference standard which is made of aluminum alloy. Similarly, if you have a steel sample, then your reference standard should also be made of a steel. Okay. So, that is the first thing that one should keep in mind while calibrating the instrument. The reference standard and the sample material should be same. Okay. Right. So, for today this is all I will have. There are couple of more things about this particular technique, including calibrating the instrument, which I will talk about in the next lecture. Okay. So, for today I will stop here. Thank you for your attention.